What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Monday Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, we talk about the news topics that relate to the scale world of RC that happened over the last week. We've got a bunch of topics for this week, so let's jump into them. In an unexpected release this week, Horizon Hobbies released a new battery tray for the Ascender. This allows you to run a full-size battery. This is something that we've seen available in the aftermarket for a long time. Now, I think it's still a little bit of a roll of the dice whether or not we'll still see much more from Vaterra on the Ascender line now that Horizon owns Axial. Being that they released this part on its own kind of makes me think that maybe they're not going to be doing too much more rather than saving this for the release of a new truck completely. They are just incorporating the release, dropping it for the platform as it sits. But if you are interested in running a full-size battery on your Ascender and you haven't already found an aftermarket solution for it, I'll link it in the description below. This week we've got a bunch of releases from Vanquish. These are some parts that are become available separately from the VS410. First, we've got the Incision Slipper Eliminator setup. This replaces the top shaft assembly on your regular 3-gear style transmission. It's got a 22 and a 23 millimeter bolt pattern on there that accepts a ton of different spur gears. The Kimbrough spur gears got both of them on there, and then several others will work as well. Also, the 6-hole AR44 style gears are available on the website now. They're under the same part number that the previous ones were. It was just a running change, so any AR44 gear set you buy through the Vanquish site as of now will be that new 6-hole style. And the lockers that go with those were changed a long time ago. So any locker that you would have bought through the Vanquish website for quite some time now would have already been the 6-hole version. The Origin body set is also available separately now. It comes with the body and the interior all pre-cut just like it comes in the VS410 kit. And I'll put links to all of those products in the description below as well. If you're looking for some new tires, Pitbull is doing their fall 50% off sale right now with the code FALL2018. I do believe that you can back order any tires that aren't available currently, but go check the website for any of the details on that. I'll link it below with the coupon code as well. Now, while this really isn't scale off-road related, it's still another one of those interesting releases. HPI is releasing the RS4 Sport 3 Creator Edition. Now, what this is their regular Sport 3 chassis platform, but with no electronics, no body, no wheels or tires. Now, I know there's still some issues with HPI's support of replacement parts. Not sure how that applies as well with the RS4 line, but it seems like one of those lines that's been around for quite a while, so hopefully anything that you did need, you could find aftermarket if it wasn't available from HPI at that time. But if that type of platform is something you're interested in, I'll link below to any of the details I can find. Tamiya announced a new release this week, and this is the Buggy Champ 2009 re-release. I don't have any knowledge on vintage Tamiya or vintage RC in general, but I imagine that this one looks basically like it did when the original came out in like 1979. Still, it's a pretty cool looking model. One of those ones that I see why it had such appeal, and it shows how much Tamiya paid attention to a lot of the scale details even way back in the day. Now, it shows an MSRP of this thing of like $513, but the actual street price of it looks closer to $389. Either way, it looks like a pretty cool model. Definitely would be something that would be interested in building, but probably not something that I'm going to invest in yet. This week there was an interesting email sent by Traxxas regarding the Venom Unipower 2.0 adapter. Now, the Unipower 2.0 system is basically something that you can use a standard battery and plug it into one of Traxxas's special ID style chargers. Now, Traxxas is stating that the Unipower 2.0 is not compatible with their chargers and bypasses or doesn't have the intelligence of their system. Not sure how true that is or not, because I believe the Traxxas ID system just basically integrates the balancing system into one plug, which is kind of nice, although being that it's specific to Traxxas and all those things, it's just one more headache of things that are only compatible with their ecosystem. There's been stories told by some of the local hobby shops that Traxxas is not allowing them to buy the Traxxas specific battery plugs anymore, and that they're trying to only sell you them on the batteries before. And if you take off a battery plug or solder on something new, you void any warranties of the car itself. I can see where Traxxas may be going, trying to protect, and do as much as they can to make sure that any of the owners of their cars, if they're using all the Traxxas stuff, is covered and being safe. But at the same time, it's a headache, and it's hard for shop owners to keep customers happy when they have to sell them the Traxxas parts that are either quite a bit more expensive than other comparable options, or they just have to, bypass Traxxas' warranty or any type of customer support that the customer could have seen in the future unless they stayed with that one ecosystem. There's been tons of examples of Traxxas being seen as kind of a bully in the market, trying to, either put legal pressure on companies, things like that. I'm not sure if this is another example of that or not, or if it truly is an unsafe situation that the Venom system put out. I've owned Venom stuff in the past. I actually had pretty good luck with their chargers as well. I can't see that they put out something that was unsafe, but Traxxas says it's not compatible, and who knows what else will come of this. I'll put a link to this press release in the description below if you'd like to read through all of the details of what Traxxas said. But that's pretty much going to do it for the news topics for this week. Again, I posted on social media asking for questions or topics to discuss for the end of the Scale News update. So we'll first start with any of the questions posted on Instagram. This one says, several Axial kits have been discontinued. Do you think the RR10 Bomber kit will also be discontinued? I don't think so, but it's hard to say. Going down Axial's website, you kind of see the ones that are still there, and some of the ones that have been discontinued have been removed completely. I think that a lot of them that were removed were because of either licensing contracts expiring or maybe just lower sellers. The Bomber is definitely a strong platform with strong sales, and I think that the kit will probably stay around for quite a while as well. This one says, will there ever be an East Coast version of Axial Fest? Now that Horizon owns Axial, I say that there's probably a better chance now than there ever has been of there being an event held like it on the East Coast somewhere. However, I think a huge part of Axial Fest being Axial Fest is where it's held specifically. Cisco Grove has just some of the most amazing terrain centered around a really nice campground. It's just a combination that is hard to match. Now there's, good rock crawling in a lot of places on the East Coast. I've been to a lot of them, but I haven't seen a place that puts everything together the same way that it is up at Cisco Grove. This comment says, why paint a VS410 when you can dip it? Now, if you don't know what that is referring to, someone over the last week took and basically blasted a completely assembled VS410 with red Rust-Oleum paint, like you would a tractor. And I think that was the theme they were going for, was that tractor style. You basically paint it as it sits, and whatever wears off, wears off. And that is definitely what they did. Servo, links, shocks, shock shafts, everything. Next question is, best shocks for an RR10 Bomber? Lots of good shocks out there. Currently, I'm running the ProSpect 4-inch slash shocks on my Bomber. This one says, a real RC Ultra 4 and rock bouncing series is needed. I think the U4RC style is as close to Ultra 4 as you're really gonna get. Now, granted, whenever competition comes, a lot of different things get mixed in there, and maybe the overall idea can kind of get lost in the spirit of competitiveness, but I think that just kind of happens. As far as a rock bouncing series, I don't know if you're just talking about bounty hill stuff or trying to do timed runs through things. All comes down to location, people willing to do it, the whole thing. Could be fun, I'm sure. It all depends on your terrain, your areas, the whole deal. Hill climbs, always a lot of fun though, so it'd be worth it. If someone wants to organize it, I'll go to one. When will you be announcing your new build off with Scale Builders Guild? That will be not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday with the release of the very first video. I'm super excited, and I really need to start working on the project. I've got some parts coming already, and going to start digging in, hopefully to have a really good week 2 video. The first video is just an introduction and baseline to the project. It's going to be insanely fun at the end. John Schultz RC asks, do you like tacos? Yes, I do. Is there a scientific term for being allergic to brass? I'll look it up and I'll put it in this area somewhere. This guy asks, can you save a twitching service? I'm guessing that was an autocorrect and that should have said servo. Probably need to send it in for warranty. That sounds like the potentiometer or the board attached to it is fried. Probably need to send it in, either get that replaced or throw it in the trash and buy a new one. Where do you prefer to add weight to a RC crawler? Almost always I add it in the roof rack. I like a big roof rack with a lot of homemade sleeping bags, tow ropes, scale firewood, and coolers. But in all reality, I don't like to add weight at all. I try and just manage the weight that I have as low as possible, try and organize the items in the car to be, as forward and low as possible without adding additional weight. Now we'll jump over to the comments on the Facebook page. This one says, chargers and batteries new to the scale world. So if you're new to the hobby and you're not really sure what type of batteries or chargers you want to buy or pick up, or you're just looking to refresh, maybe you're running some old nickel metal stuff or things like that, I run a couple of different chargers. I have a Venom Pro Duo that I keep at home, and then I've got a ProTech 4-place charger here at the office. The nice thing about both of them is they've got the balancers built in. I balance charge my batteries every time I run them. I also make sure that any battery charger I buy is an AC/DC charger, meaning that I can either plug it into the wall here at the office or I can hook it up to my car if I'm out in the field. As far as batteries go, I'm running a number of different batteries, but almost everything I have is 3S LiPo. 3S will get you just a little bit more power out of almost anything you're running. Almost everything is compatible with at least 3S voltage now, so it's nice just to have that extra power on tap if you want to use it. Lately, I'm getting almost all my batteries from RC Juice. They're Hobby Star batteries. They've worked really well for me. They're inexpensive and performance has been great. And on all of my batteries now, I've been switching to XT60 style connectors. Now, I ran Dean's plugs forever and they never really failed me. XT60s are easier to solder to, and then the nice thing is you can like turn that plug inside of the actual connector to make sure that your wires don't ever have that little bit of kink from soldering them at just the slightly wrong angle. They're also a lot easier to plug and unplug. So that was the reason that I recently changed from Dean's to XT60. There's a bunch of other things to talk about on batteries themselves. I did do a discussion on it in one of the weeks of my Honcho budget build, and I'll link that in the description below, give you a little bit more in-depth information on batteries if you're not all that familiar. Craig asks, is scratch building with styrene a dying art due to cheap 3D printers, or is a resurgence coming soon? I actually think that probably more people are building from scratch now than there ever has been. You know, scale has come up a bunch, and there's a ton of guys who are digging in and working with scratch building styrene. Now, while there is a huge boom of parts being made with 3D printers, I don't think that that is slowing scratch building styrene guys at all. I think that they've been doing crazier and cooler things than they ever have been in much larger numbers. But with that being said, I did just pick up a brand new 3D printer for like $330. It's just an insanely cheap price with a really big bed size on it. It's amazing what you can get now for so cheap with these 3D printers. I haven't fired this one up yet. It just came the other day. I'm just getting it assembled. I'm gonna see what it's all about. But for that kind of money, for the bed size and what it'll do, it looked like something that I figured I might as well try. I'll put the link to that 3D printer in the description below as well. And I think we'll end on this one. Jacob says, where do you see this hobby in 5 years? It's amazing how fast 5 years can come. I'm sure by then we'll absolutely have seen a 100% brass TRX4, but beyond that, I think that we'll just see further advancements in scale. I think in the next 5 years, we'll see almost all of the big companies in this trail market. I think that all of them have to be looking at this, have to be thinking about developing something that competes with the popularity of an Axial SCX-10, an Axial Wraith, Bomber, all of those cars that have been so influential, so popular, and just you can't ignore how big this market has got so quickly. But with that, guys, I think that'll do it for this week. I hope you all have an awesome week coming up, and make sure and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss next week's Scale News update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.